Magandang hapon po mga Katribu and welcome to Kalingang Katribu. Kakaiba po ang ating episode ngayon dahil ang special guest po natin ay isang batikan na author, renowned author, speaker, much in demand resource person for things that cannot be explained. Yan, yung mga kababalaghan na hindi kaya natin maintindihan, not at least in the normal terms. Please welcome my good friend, Jaime Licauco.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Jimmy.
Cory.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Again, Jim,
Again.
siyempre, lahat ng mga misteryo at lahat ng mga kababalaghan, yan, you have to run to Jaime Licauco for an explanation, for an understanding of things that defy understanding. So Jim, I know you're a prolific writer and author. Ilan na bang mga librong na sulatan niyo?
I only 21 books.
Only 21 books. Jim, that's a lot of books.
Yeah, and thousands of articles.
Right. Alam ko rin na kayo po ay matalik na kaibigan ng mga international experts, renowned experts in the field of, I have to say it, the paranormal,
Parapsychology.
and things that are transcendental,
mystical.
mystical. So, let's begin. Siyempre, people do not understand or at least are confused or overwhelmed by the concept of death and what happens after life. But there are those that have been in the throes of death but have returned back to life.
That's right.
Some miracle. So we're talking about near-death experience. Ano ang ibig sabihin ng near-death experience? And let's look at that. A near-death experience is a profound personal experience associated with death or impending death, which researchers, share similar characteristics. So Jim, near-death experience, I know you're well-researched on the subject. Is it true that people can go through death and then come back and live to tell their story?
You know, Cory, there's a lot of evidence for this. The first to study the near-death experience is Dr. Raymond Moody, a medical doctor in the 70s. He studied about 50 cases of near-death experience. In fact, he was the one who coined the word near-death experience. And the definition of near-death experience is that the process of being declared dead and then coming back to life. No, that's the definition of near-death experience.
Pero so, bakit yung mga sinasabi ng mga bumalik, nasa sanib na sila ng kamatayan, bakit karamihan, or if not all of them, say the same thing? All right? Ano yung mga same na nakikita nila, Jim?
Yeah, well, first that some of them see their body, physical body, their astral body, leaving the physical. No? That they're usually in the operating room of a hospital or during an accident in a vehicle, etc. And then they go through a tunnel that's very dark. And then at the end of the tunnel, there is a being, radiant being of light that welcomes them. And then this being makes him see the review of his life, what he has lived, and asks him several questions. And then after that, sometimes he is shown the other people who are there. He doesn't know what it is, but there is a certain peaceful, loving presence of this radiant being. If he is Christian, he identifies it as Jesus Christ. But if you're another religion, you may identify it as Buddha or Ganesh or Hindu god or whatever. So it depends on your religion, what you see there, no? But it's a being that is loving and welcoming you, and then explaining what's happening there in that dimension. I wouldn't call it heaven because it's a dimension in the afterworld.
So Jim, depende sa relihiyon ng isang tao, correct?
Mm.
You are saying then that it becomes their personal experience, depending on whatever religion. Pero the sameness of it.
Yes, it's similar. Everybody goes through similar. It is not exactly the same. Some people don't see the tunnel, but many of them do. Yes.
Okay, una-una may tunnel at may ilaw sa dulo ng tunnel.
And then the being of light. And then the review of his life that passed. Papakita sa kanya from the time he was born to the present time will be shown in seconds, no? But it is complete. That's the wonder of it. It's complete. It's like a hologram of his life.
Okay, pero Jim, meron akong nabasa. This is according to research of brain experts, mga neurologists. Sabi nila, ganun talaga ang utak. It reaches a point where the brain will process everything in your life. Totoo ba yun? It's just the brain? Or what? How do you draw the line between what your brain is processing and what you are actually experiencing in the other dimension?
At that moment, you won't know what's happening. It's only afterwards that you see there is a big difference. No? And the criticism against this phenomenon, is some psychiatrists and neurologists say, when your brain is deprived of oxygen, you see things that you don't normally see, and you feel like getting out of your body, and that's hallucination. That's their opinion. But the evidence is otherwise. The evidence is there's so much evidence now, Cory. So, what to me, the problem with critics is that they have never experienced it, and they talk about it as if it is something that's the only thing that's the only explanation possible, and that is not true. That's not true. The other evidence that all over the world there is similarity. How do you explain that?
Oo nga. Malaking kababalaghan nga, Jimmy. That's why we asked you to guest today to give us some clarity, some understanding of what near-death experience is all about. You said that people who talk about NDE, near-death experience, many of them don't understand it or have not gone through it. So, matingnan nga natin yung mga tao na nagkaroon na ng near-death experience. Let's take a look at this. Jim, who's the first one?
Napakarami na ngayon. Ano? Nung at the first in the 70s, there were only a few, about 50 that Raymond. By the way, I met Raymond Moody himself. I met him in California in the mid 90s at Marriott Hotel when he gave a lecture about NDE. I was there. I met the person who made the first study, Raymond Moody. So I know what I'm talking about, Cory. I just didn't read the book. I was talking to the man who conducted the study. You see, so that's the difference between me and some people who just talk out of something that they heard.
Exactly. So anong sabi ni in a gist? Siyempre, ang hirap, no? You had a long conversation with the man, pero talagang hinimay nyo ng mabuti. In a gist, para sa kaalaman ng ating mga katribu, anong sinabi ni Dr. Moody sa inyo? Base sa kanyang research.
Well, actually, it was a lecture of everybody, not to me. I was just listening to him, and then I talked to him afterwards and invited him to the Philippines, actually. And then he said he would think about it, but he never did. So, as I said, near-death experience is that process where you feel like you're in another dimension. Your astral body is out there, but you don't know what the astral body is, so you think it's the soul that goes out. So fine, it doesn't matter what you call it. The point is you are in another dimension, and then you are shown your life, and then there's a being that asks you a question. Like the question, there are two questions. One is, what have you done with your life? And then, how have you loved or something like that?
Have you loved? The first is, anong ginawa mo?
Sa
Paano
buhay
mo
mo.
ginamit ang buhay nyo? What have
Yes.
you done? Okay?
Yes.
Pangalawa, nagmahal ka ba?
Yes. Yes.
Did you love?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a very deep question. Two
That's
deep
right.
questions.
And then after being shown your life, your whole life will be shown to you, the things that you did right, the things you did wrong. But there is no judgment. No? See, this is very important. There is no judgment. This is contrary to the Christian religion, saying that we are judged by God. No. None of these people who experiences said that they were being judged. There's only loving kindness. Whatever you did, it's not punished or anything. And there is no judgment. And it's you who judge yourself, no? But not God or anybody else.
So, ito yung taong or being or entity, whatever, or presence na nagtatanong itong mga napakamalalim na katanungan. Wala siyang mukha, no? Ilaw lang ba yun?
Yes. Oo, it's a radiant light. Hindi mo siya makita directly because it's a light, blinding light, but it is not painful blinding. That's one thing also that everybody notice, those who have gone through the experience, as a brilliant light, and you almost cannot see, pero hindi blinding.
Hindi nakakasilaw. Oo.
Oo.
Hindi masakit sa mata.
Hindi masakit.
Mahapot sa mata. Okay.
Yes.
Alright,
That's,
nakakasilaw. So,
that's
ito ba itong ilaw na ito ay para siyang magnet? Gusto mong lumapit sa
yes.
kanya?
Yeah, that's right. There is this feeling that you want to be there. And then if it is not your time, that being will say, it's not your time, you have to go back to earth. And most of them refuse to go back. They want to be there. No? They don't want to go back to their bodies. A few did, but the majority will say, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here.
Okay, Jim, this is para sa ating mga katribo, okay? Ano ang pagkakaiba ng near-death experience sa astral projection?
Well, astral projection is something that happens to everybody in the evening. And you get out of your body, but you're not aware of it. But in the case of near-death experience, you are transported to another dimension, another dimension than here. So that's the difference, no? And that you are being led, by a being of light, which is not present in the astral projection.
Interesting. Okay, mga katribo, sa aming pagbabalik, ayan na yung mga eksperto, yung mga talagang nagkaroon ng karanasan tungkol sa NDE or near-death experience. Sa aming pagbabalik, huwag po kayong aalis.
Boto mo to, Halalan 2022, The Daily Tribune Special Coverage.
Magandang araw mga katribu! Narito na ang mga makakasama nyo tuwing umaga sa programang Gising Na. Roy Pelovelo, Comfy Manalo, Atty. Lia Badillo Crisostomo, Vernon Velasco, Kim Sancha at Jerk Balagtas. Abangan ang programang Gising Na mula alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga sa Facebook page ng Daily Tribune.
Ilabas na ang mainit na kape at samahan kami sa inyong pag-almusal, mga katribo.
Sama-sama natin alamin ang mga natatagong istorya sa mga latest na kaganapan sa loob at labas ng bansa.
Simulan natin ang bawat umaga with good vibes sa mga informative and recreational segments ng aming programa.
Maaari niyo rin ibahagi sa amin ang inyong opinion via Daily Tribune Facebook page at Tribune Now sa YouTube.
Makichika na rin sa latest showbiz happenings, mga katribo.
Kaya naman, magkita-kita po tayo mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga at magsama-sama po tayo sa
Gising Na!
Boto mo to, Halalan 2022, The Daily Tribune Special Coverage.
Welcome back mga katribo. Napaka-exciting and interesting ng ating topic ngayon. Near-death experience, NDE, with the expert, Jimmy Licauco. And Jimmy,
Hello again.
let's continue, Jimmy. Ipapakita natin yung mga nagsulat na mga libro tungkol sa NDE. Can we show the picture of Dr. Evan? Ayan, ito muna. Oh, who is this man?
That's George Rodonaya. That's what I want to have, that the last one sana.
Last na lang siya? Okay, last na si Dr. George.
Because this is really quite amazing.
Sige.
And
Last na siya.
3 days dead, no? 3
Okay,
days.
sige.
Tatlong
Sige.
araw.
Last na yan. Sige, ang una, yung si Dr. Evan Alexander. Tama? Dr. Evan, yan. Proof of Heaven.
Yeah, Proof of Heaven.
Evan Alexander. Doctor. He's a neurosurgeon.
Yes, neurosurgeon,
To the
neuroscientist.
afterlife. Okay.
Well, what happened to him was that, I think 1976, 1975, he got an infection in the head. It's bacterial meningitis, you know. And it was very painful. No, he got a headache and was hospitalized. And then he was in a coma. He was in a coma, medically induced coma. He was almost brain dead, and for I think 7 days. 7 days he was in that condition, and he was like a vegetable. And at that moment, he was transported to another dimension, where again he was shown his life and meeting a being of light and all that. And this exactly the same, the review of life, and then being there, and what was told that it's not yet his time, and then go back. No. So what happens is that sa kanya 7 days siya. But you know, in the case of Evan Alexander, and medyo it's unclear to me, because the whole book, I read the whole book, and there is no mention that he was brain dead.
I see.
But in the book, he's saying, I am a neuroscientist. I know what bacterial meningitis does. There was no malfunctioning of my brain, according to the book. No, so this was controversial, because in other cases of near death, there is a declaration that they are dead. No, you are brought to the hospital, you declare dead on arrival for about 30 minutes, and in the case of Rodonaya, 3 days dead in a freezer in a morgue. No, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
But most of the experiences of people with near death are dead for 30 minutes to 1 hour. Ganyan. And it's only 1 or 2 cases, 1 day or 2 days. But in the case of Rodonaya, it's 3 days. You see, to me, this is so astounding, because Christianity says that only Jesus Christ died and lived again. That is not true, because there is proof, Cory, there is proof. I mean, nobody can question the experience of this guy, Rodonaya. Everything is there, the clinical record and all that on his story.
Yes.
He died, and he was in a freezer, Cory. He was in a freezer
I know.
at the morgue for
It
3
defies
days.
Explanation. Jim, pero si Dr. Tapusin muna natin si Dr. Evan. Doktor yan neurosurgeon.
Yes.
So, ayan.
That's why he knew what was happening there. Sabi niya, I was really dead. No? And at that time, he just was transported to a place that he doesn't understand. No?
Ano daw
And he
yung
was,
gamit?
in the case of Alexander Evan, he was shown a certain place that's beautiful that he calls heaven. And there's a map of the places, what you do in this one part, second part, third part in heaven, ano mga ginagawa ng mga tao. Very clear sa kanya yung mga yon. She's the only one who had this experience, where this heaven is shown in the different parts and what's happening there.
So,
In the other cases, wala. It's just a beautiful
So,
place. Which,
kumbaga ay
with
namasyal
all that.
siya o pinasyal siya.
Financial siya, yes, correct. So, and at the time that he was dead. And what is interesting about all these experiences, when you get back, you are transformed into another person. You're never the same person again after this experience. That is the difference between astral projection and other experimental procedures. In this case, there is transformation. What is transformation? In the case of Rodonaya, he was an atheist. And after this, he became a pastor. He studied religion. He didn't believe in God, no, and he was transformed. And in the case of Daniel Brinkley, he was an ex-marine, a bully, and a killer, no.
We
He was
have a
transformed.
picture of Daniel here. Wala. Daniel, yung next photograph, meron tayo.
Daniel Brinkley. I don't have a picture of Daniel,
No, but we have,
but this guy is still alive up to now and doing lectures. I think he's alive. I think he's still alive. I'm not so sure now.
nasaan yung next, yung parang video na hindi pwedeng i-air yung sound. I think eto.
That's Rodonaya.
That's Rodonaya.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
in different ages. Yeah, kaya siya yan. Kaya na may balbas siya rin yun.
Dr. George, doctor din.
He's a doctor of medicine and neuropathologist. This guy. Yeah, that's the same.
When he was younger.
That's him.
Okay, and then the other photo. Yung
That's
isa pa,
Rodonaya.
yung unang pinalabas na black and white.
Oo, mataba na siya. No?
That's ages. Akala ko ibang tao yun. Yan.
That's also him.
Dr. George Rodonaya. Okay. Do you want to talk about the story of Dr. George?
Sige.
Malaking kababalagan. Okay.
Yeah, this is something really quite interesting and unbelievable. I've read several articles about his experience in several magazines, US magazines, but I never heard him talk about it himself until only a few days ago. I was watching YouTube and he was there being interviewed in 4 different interviews of Rodonaya. And so what I'm telling you is coming from his own words. No, he wanted to leave the Soviet Union, USSR, because he was disgusted with the Marxist philosophy, and communism. But this guy is a genius. Huh? He got his first PhD at the age of 22. He spoke several languages. At the age of 15, he entered the university at 15, and very brilliant. And therefore, the Soviet Union, the government, would like him to stay there. But they found out that he wanted to leave the country, so there was a decision to kill him. So in 1976, while he was walking on a sidewalk, to go to the airport, to go to the U.S. because he had a visa and passport, going to the U.S. He was run over by a car. He tumbled over. He was able to run, and the car ran after him and ran over him again several times to make sure he's dead. When they were sure he was dead, they left. Then some people who saw it brought him to the hospital. He was declared dead. Then since it was a Friday, his body was placed in the morgue, in a freezer, in the morgue on Friday. So it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, he was going to be autopsied. Ito maganda, no? So he's dead. He's lifeless. No, he's a corpse. 3 days. No.
Malamig na yung katawan. Okay.
Oh, of course, he was in the freezer.
Yeah, that's why. Malamig na katawan. Tigas
Hindi
na.
lang ordinary dead. He was like an ice.
Right.
So when the doctor made the first incision on his chest, he felt the pain. He felt like he was drawn back to his body. That was the time he was drawn back to his body, and he felt the pain. He opened his eyes, and then the doctor saw that the eyes were reacting to the light, like in pupil, di ba, pagka may light, So he panicked. He ran away because patay yung tao for 3 days, and then he was alive. So he went back, and then he was brought to the hospital. The resuscitation and all that took him about 3 weeks in the respirator. It was not very easy, So to rehabilitate him, and he was up to. I think he is still alive up to now. He became a pastor of the Eastern Orthodox Church in, I'm not sure, in Texas. I think he's in Texas.
Nasa Amerika siya ngayon.
Yes, he defected to the West.
Ayun. Pero Jim, sinabi nyo, merong malaking transformation sa isang tao na nagkakaroon ng karanasan ng NDE or near-death experience. Sa kaso ni Dr. George, sinabi nyo, he was an atheist.
Yes.
Hindi siya
He was a
naniniwala.
communist. He was a Marxist.
Right.
Yeah. Dialectical materialism, Marxist-Leninist philosophy, and all that.
Right.
And then what
after
is interesting?
naging
What was
pastor.
What's that? Hindi ko
Said,
narinig sa.
after his NDE, naging pastor si Dr. George.
Yes, he studied religion. He had several degrees. Yes, in neuroscience, psychiatry, psychology of religion, and he spoke several languages. The guy is a genius. So that's why
Ano
this.
sinabi niya sa mga interviews niya? We cannot air.
Yun nga, I already related it, how it happened. No? But then, what is interesting is what happened to him when he was dead. He said he was transported in a very dark place. He said it is so dark, that absolute darkness. And he didn't know where he was. And then he saw a light. There was no tunnel. He went through the light, no? And he felt better when he was in the light, no? First he was afraid, and then he felt much better. And then I thought he was shown a review of his life, no? Like the others. But there was no being that he saw. There was no being. So that's one characteristic that's not the same as the others, no? And what happened during that time, he said he could communicate with children who cannot talk yet, 2 or 3 years, 2 years old, no? And he could communicate telepathically with these children. And there was one girl, 2 years old or less, who was crying, and the parents didn't know why she was crying, and he knew it was because she broke her tooth, or I don't know, several teeth was broken. And it was only later they found out. Oh, he told some people that what would happen to the girl, but I don't know how he told it. That particular point was not clear in the story, but he knew he was able to talk to several children who could not talk. That's one. And then his transformation of being an atheist, became very religious, became a pastor even, not just converted to Christianity, but even became a pastor. And he studied the psychology of religion. You know, he is a linguist, no? He is a philologist. He learns languages very easily. So the guy really is a genius.
Right. Pero anong sabi ng mga doktor? Paano nangyari yon? Patay
Well, they cannot, of course, Cory, they couldn't explain it. They had to take his word for it. And in fact, you know, he was saying in his story, they were all against him. The people were saying that you're just hallucinating, you're just everything. But he said, I know what I went through. I know exactly what I went through. And nobody can persuade me otherwise. Because they did not experience it, I experienced it, he said. Then, because people don't believe this. No? And if you live in a Christian country, the more you will not believe it, because you believe only Christ was able to do this. That is not true. He was able to do it. He lived after 3 days, and this is on record. Anybody who questions it, you give him the record.
Hindi si Dr. George Rodonaya. Buhay pa siya, Jim?
I'm not sure, because I saw him on YouTube. He was lecturing, you know, or he was being interviewed, but I'm not sure. He was, I think, 25 or 35 in 1975. So you can figure it out. He must be about 80, or if he's still alive, or 85 right now.
Wow, very exciting, Jim. Interesting.
Yeah, it is very. No, you know, sometimes he's called, Cory, the modern Lazarus. Remember, Lazarus was dead for several days, and Christ brought him back. He is called the modern Lazarus.
Lazarus. Ano sabi ni Jesus Christ? Lazarus, awake, right? Or come to me.
Yes. So there are so many mysteries in this world, Cory, that, you know, that fascinates me. And you see, people talk about the paranormal. There's no such thing as the paranormal. Everything is normal. The reason we call things paranormal is because science cannot explain it. Anything that science cannot explain, they call paranormal. So
I see.
You have not seen a ghost, it's paranormal.
Okay. So we will talk about parapsychology na lang. Yung near-death experience ay nasa larangan ba yan? Larangan ba yan ng parapsychology?
It is not standard. It's not standard. Some are interested, but the parapsychology studies phenomena, not a near-death experience. Although some try to study what happens after death. There have been some studies on that, no? By parapsychologists. But most of the psychic powers, ghosts and all that, apparitions, poltergeist phenomena, this is what is common to parapsychology.
Jim, you've written 20 books, correct?
Excuse me?
20 books you have written.
21.
20 libro. 21. 21.
21.
Okay.
And some of them have been translated into several languages like Japanese, German, and Polish languages.
Ang galing talaga ni Jimmy. Proudly Filipino. Jim, let's look at your book, your latest book. Tingnan nga natin yung bagong libro ni Jimmy.
Yeah, that's the latest. It's a small book. Yes. It's the only book of its kind, The Psychic Powers of Jesus Christ, because people don't understand. No? When they talk of Jesus Christ, they talk about miracles and all that. And he himself said, these are not miracles. Anybody can do what I have done. He said that. If you will look at John chapter something like that, he said that. Everything I have done, you can do. He said it. But I don't know why they are not quoting that. The priests are not saying that. No, because they cannot do it. They cannot do what he did. Actually, there are many people who have been able to duplicate what he has done. And even in the near-death experience, even getting back to life after 3 days, somebody has done it, Rodonaya, So everything that Jesus Christ did, people have been able to do this. Everything that he has done.
Mm-hmm. Jim, saan available ang mga libro nyo?
This is just available. These ones are available only from me. It's not available in the bookstores because this is self-published. My books are not being reprinted anymore, except Soul, Image, Karma, and Reincarnation.
Oh, saan nabibili ito? How do they call? What numbers do they call?
Well, they can call my office, which is I forgot already.
number niya.
88107245. 88107245. Yes, and I forgot the cell number, but they can call that particular number.
What number is that, Jim? But they can reach you on Facebook, right?
Yes, or 88107245. That's the landline.
810-7245.
881. 8810-7245.
7245. Tawag na lang po kayo if you want to order Jimmy's book. Ngayon, Jim, in all your years, ilang taon ka na nagsusulat tungkol sa mga kababalahan, mga misteryo, at saka yung mga sinasabi nilang the unexplained, especially in the field of parapsychology. With regard to near-death experience, what have you learned? What have you learned? You can share with us.
There's no death. And in fact, Rodonaya emphasizes that death is an illusion. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. We don't die. We just go to another dimension.
Walang namamatay?
Yeah, walang namamatay. They go to another dimension. But they're alive in another dimension. There is no such thing as death. That is Rodonaya saying that. Several times he kept emphasizing that.
Okay, so Jim, to sum up, kasi wala na tayong oras, NDE, can anyone go through that experience? Or kailangan magkaroon ng background bilang doktor? Because all the people that you showed us are doctors because they can understand what's happening to them.
No, it's just coincidental that they're doctors. There have been ordinary housewives. There is the Marine, ex-Marine, who is Brinkley, who was a bully and was transformed, also became a very, very loving person and died 3 times. The case of Brinkley is another interesting thing because the first time he was struck by lightning, yung kanyang telephone struck by lightning, he was burned. He was catapulted there in the room and died, and brought to the hospital and declared dead. Then he had another second death near that experience. He was being operated, heart surgery. He died again. And then the third time he was being operated, brain surgery. He died again. So Damian Brinkley died 3 times and lived again. Now you're asking if everybody experiences. No, of course not. Most people die and they remain dead.
At
This
ano
is
ang
very
sinabi niya tungkol sa kanyang karanasan? 3 times he experienced near-death experience or sa pangatlo lang?
No, of all 3 experience he was near death. He was revived after that.
At meron din siyang nakita. Lahat na sinabi niyo.
Oh yes, and what is interesting about the Damien Brinkley, he was shown over 100 visions of things to come, what will happen, and several of these have already happened. The others he didn't want to reveal, no, but the ones that happened he revealed. That was one of these are the three things yata or 4 things happened already. There is more. There are more things to come, but he was shown.
Research. What is his first name?
Damien. Danion. Damien Brinkley.
Damien Brinkley.
Yes. Yes.
Americano.
American. Yes, he's an American. Yes.
Okay, so
Marine. He's an ex-Marine. He was a bully. He was a tough guy. He was a bully. He was a killer. He was. The guy is a killer, and then he became a very loving person. In fact, one of the reasons that he had this problem with physical, he went when he was. I had the NDE experience. He went to his enemies. He developed a lot of enemies to ask forgiveness, but then they, binugbog siya, patay siya ulit. He wanted to apologize for all the things he has done. So he was transformed into a very loving person. He now works, if he is still alive, he works with the hospice and has helped thousands of people who are dying to help them into transition from living to death.
Ang galing naman, to transition. Yes. Maganda yon kasi syempre yung mga karamihan ng mga tao, syempre takot silang mamatay.
Yes, he has helped thousands of people
to
transition.
Kaya tumutulong sa mga tao hanggang ngayon. People who are...
Well, if he is still alive, I'm not so sure whether he's still alive.
I see. So, to sum it up, Jim, because you said there is no death. Kasi may buhay sa tinatawag nating kamatayan o ginagamit lang ng kamatayan bilang isang tulay para makarating sa bagong buhay. That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That death is merely just a bridge to the next.
You know, Cory, these cases of near-death experience has given rise to the question of survival after death. Because, in the West, they're still trying to prove whether there's life after death. And many people don't believe in it. No? So these cases are questioning that. No? Maybe there is consciousness is not dependent on the brain. No? That's still controversial. Whether consciousness is part of the brain and all that. It's not. It's independent. We can think without the brain. And that is proven by people who have gone. I've been out of my body. I've gone to astral projection. I left my body, but I could think. I'm still conscious when I'm out of my body. So consciousness is not dependent on the brain. See, but scientists do not accept this. It's nonsensical. It's just hallucination. That's what they say. So let them believe what they believe. I don't quarrel with them.
No, Jim, it is
That's
so
their problem. Not my problem. They don't believe.
It gives me hope. Kasi lahat ng mga nagkaroon ng karanasan ng NDE or near-death experience, nagbago ang kanilang buhay. Nagbago ang kanilang karakter.
Yes.
At yung kanilang misyon sa buhay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And many of them become psychic afterwards. Their psychic perception increases. Some become healers. No? And in the case of Daniel Brinkley, he became a hospice advisor in a hospice.
Oh, yes, a helper to the next life.
Yes.
So, Jim, thank you for sharing with us today. And
yes, thank you.
We hope to learn and hear and see more of you dito sa Kalingang Katribu for Daily Tribune. At alam po ninyo mga katribo, pumayag na po si Jimmy Licauco na magkakaroon po tayo ng part 2. At ang ating part 2 will be, Jimmy, what is our next topic for the following?
I don't know. Did I agree to that?
Yes, you agreed. Walang atrasan kasi experience. Tapos may soulmates, karma, reincarnation. And then we're going to talk about what else?
I don't know. I'd forgotten. I have so many invitations.
Abangan si Jimmy Licauco sa darating na Miyerkules dahil po we will have a 3-part series with Jimmy. Thank you for sharing your genius, your knowledge, your experience, your success, your
Thank you.
enlightenment. Jimmy, yung enlightenment ni Jimmy Licauco tungkol sa mga iba't ibang bahagi ng pagkakaintindi po tayo ng mga kababalaghan sa buhay, mga himala sa buhay. Ito na po ang ating 3-part series with Jimmy Licauco. Jim, you want to say goodbye? Your parting word?
Yes, thank you. And you know, I don't like the word paranormal. I don't like the word kababalaghan. It's kababalaghan only because we don't understand it.
Yeah.
But once we understand it, it's no longer kababalaghan, di ba? And that's what makes me so sorry about it, is that people think of it as kababalaghan. They do not want to study it in a serious way. And if only they will be serious, if science will just study, you know, Nikola Tesla said, the moment that science studies non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than all the centuries of its existence. He was right. If science will study non-physical phenomena like this thing, it will make more progress in 1 decade than all the years of its than all the centuries of its existence. Nikola Tesla said that. Okay.
Who's Nikola Tesla?
Who is Nikola Tesla? Hi, nako. He is a genius. He was an inventor. 80% of what we are doing now, what the technology we have, is because of Nikola Tesla. He was a much more genius than Edison, who's being, you know, they tried to bully him. They tried to burn his laboratory because he was so advanced. JP Morgan withdrew his support on Tesla because he was making experiment on electricity, free electricity, all over the world, and he was using the ionosphere, to tap on the electricity.
Ito na, Jimmy. Napaka-exciting. Jim, let's reserve it for the next episode. Okay?
Ang dami.
Ito
There is so
Jim
much.
talaga,
There is so
what
much
he starts
knowledge.
Ako para siyang bullet train. Jet plane to the parapsychological science of life. Maraming salamat, Jimmy Licauco. See you again
Okay,
next
thank you also.
Yan po mga katribo ang ating Kalingang Katribo episode, yung near-death experience. So,
Okay.
stay safe everyone. Be well. God bless. Ito po si Cory Quirino.